Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer.
I'm Steve Wilkes, being more forceful this time.
Not at my direction. It's just his own.
It's just where I'm at right now. It's just a place I'm at. Okay, go ahead.
All right. I'll be more docile.
There you go.
So this is going to be a really fun beer. I think this is a unique beer that nobody in the world has ever brewed.
I concur.
I think it's true.
Yeah.
So a while back I got a bunch of malt from our new friends at Sugar Creek Malting Company up in Indiana, and they do a lot of really interesting, sometimes off the wall stuff, sometimes really traditional stuff that's obscure. So I want to talk about the two grain ingredients, malt ingredients that we use before we get into the recipe this time, because I think it requires a little background. First of all is what they call wind malt. Now, traditionally what you do when you malt a grain is you sprout it or you germinate it and sprout it, and at a certain point you want to stop that germination process, and so you heat it and kiln it, to different color temperatures basically before you use it. Well, for this wind malt, what they do is they sprout it or they germinate it, then they put it outside and they let the wind and the sun take care of drying out the malt. So what you get in this wind malt is extremely light color barley malt, maybe the lightest color barley malt there is.
Yeah.
The second ingredient is a lavender smoked malt. So what they do is they take a malt and they don't put it directly over the fire, but they use indirect smoke, and they burn up a bunch of lavender, the flowers and all, and they flavor this malt with this lavender smoke. Now, you would think that would taste like burnt grandma's bathroom, but we did a malt sampler on Basic Brewing Radio and tasted this malt as one of the specialty malts, and it was actually delicious.
It's wonderful. No stems, no seeds that you don't need.
Yeah, I told the guys up at Sugar Creek, I said, you guys are like some of my friends in college. You'll smoke anything. But
Right.
So what I did was I made a beer with those two ingredients. So I started with 8 gallons or 30 liters of water at 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 C. And into that I put 10 pounds or 4.5 kilograms of wind malt, 20 ounces or 567 grams of lavender smoked malt. And I mixed that together, and the wort in that mash was the lightest color barley wort I've ever seen. It was maybe lighter than even some wheat malts that I've seen.
Wow.
So I rested that at 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 C for an hour and 15 minutes or 75 minutes. I collected my wort, and at the beginning of a 60-minute boil, I put 1 ounce or 28 grams of Czech Saaz, and again for 60 minutes. Then what I did was we have these delicious Swedish hops from our friend Marcus over in Sweden who sent these to us. So I chilled down the wort to 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 C, and then I added 2.4 ounces or 68 grams of Korsta hops from Sweden at 8.9% alpha acid, and I let that rest in there for 15 minutes. So I could get the nice juiciness, the flavorness of of those Swedish hops. Then I chilled it down to pitching temperature, and I pitched Imperial Organic Yeast B56 Rustic, which I think is a Saison yeast.
Yeah.
The beer started out at 1043, finished at 1006 for an ABV of 4.9%. So you got, this wind malt has probably, I think, some Scandinavian influences, and then you have the actual Swedish hops from Sweden that we tasted on the show in a hop sampler. And do you remember the flavor components that from the Korsta? I remember like grape and apple and stone, peaches and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm getting that.
So this is a keg fill. These bottles, the keg is gone. Thank goodness I made keg fills before.
The keg is gone, but the melody lingers on.
Long live the keg. So the carbonation is not what I would like, but look at the color. It's very, very light. It almost has a pinkish hue. Cheers.
Cheers. Yes, it's very light, and it's very delicate beer.
Oh my!
Now
I haven't had this beer in a long time. Oh my!
I'm going to ask you. I'm going to interview you.
Okay.
So James,
Yes.
what do you think about how do you feel about the lavender smokiness of this beer? How is that coming through?
It's very subtle.
It's very subtle.
It's
It's almost gone.
yeah. It's when this beer was fresher, and it could be because it's a little oxidized because of the keg fill, because I didn't purge.
I wondered about that.
I didn't purge with CO2 before I put it in the bottle. Shame on me.
I rarely purge with CO2, but when I do,
Digel.
I'm getting very little of the lavender, or I should say the smoke, and I think it's faded.
Oh. But remember
it's-
when it was fresh, we sat out on the porch and sipped these. There was a bit of smoke on the nose and a little bit of that.
It's still there, but it's like my memories of the early '70s. It's a faded rose.
It's a little hazy, is it?
It's a little hazy.
But what's coming through now is those Corsta hops.
It's the hops. The hops are coming through like gangbusters, and they're beautiful. So it is a different beer. Well, I haven't had this beer before, but the beer I remember from the hop sampler, I'm not getting that same level of smoke, but I'm getting this beautiful hoppy, really light, delicious beer. I hate to call this a lawnmower beer because it's too good for that, but it's got that crushability about it,
But there's like a grapiness to it. There's a little bit of an appleiness to it without being cider. It's not like cider. It's a fresh. Like
very
you're
refreshing.
It's like you're biting into an apple rather than like cider, which has been around for a while. But then
Right.
also, I think I'm getting some of the yeast character as well. There's some kind of funkiness going on with the yeast.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sorry, folks. That was a spam call.
Behind the scenes at stevesbrewshop.com.
Well, I forgot to turn the phone off. We're just going to let that roll.
Well, keep it in. I'm keeping it in.
That's right. Oh, Lord.
But I do get, the more I drink of it, the more I do get some of that smoke. And it's not like heavy, it's not like a forest fire, or like I said, a fire in grandma's bathroom. It's very delicate. And I do get some floral characteristics in there. And I am getting some funkiness from that, from the rustic yeast as well.
I was going to say, that's the other thing. When you said that it was made with rustic or fermented with rustic, I was very surprised because when it was cold, it's warmed up a little bit now. When it was cold, it tasted very clean. I didn't get any kind of Saison-y or, what we would think of those kind of esters. Now that it's warmed up a little bit, I'm starting to get some of those. But I was like, holy moly, I was very surprised to hear you say that you had fermented it with that. I was expecting it to be like Dieter or something like that.
Oh, man.
a Saison, a Kolsch yeast or something like that. But wow, I'm a big fan of this beer.
Wow. I don't know where you would put it. I don't know if there's a category other than other that,
It's other.
wow.
It's all. What I'm drinking right now, at the current level of smokiness, is it's almost a Kolsch
Huh.
to me.
But
Even though it's using a Saison yeast, even though I mean, that's just where it falls. And maybe that's just because the malt is so light.
There's almost a sweet tart kind of flavor as well.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to pin down. It's kind of it's an anomaly. It's a word. I haven't used that word. I bet you I've used that word 3 times in my life. So
It's on your word of the day calendar in front of you, isn't it?
that's right. Word of the day. Anomaly. I mean, it's just, where do you put something like this? It's not a cream ale, but plays in that same place.
But it's so fruity. I mean,
It's incredible.
there are so many fruit characters or flavors in there. It's nice by itself, but it'd be fun to pair it with something as well, like a dessert of some kind.
Yeah, it would be a good dessert beer. It'd be a good aperitif. There's another word I don't use very often. It'd be a good aperitif. It'd be an anomaly as an aperitif.
I credit the beer. It'll build your vocabulary.
I was trying to think of something savory to put with it, like Thai food. Thai food would be really good with this.
Yeah. Well, I think that base malt, that wind malt, is just so, I don't want to say neutral because it's not neutral.
No,
But-
it's just its own thing. It takes delicate to a whole new level.
Yeah, this is a
So
very
do I, by the way.
very delicate and sophisticated beer. I mean, there's so many layers of complexity. It's so delicious that you want to just drink it all down, but then you also want to sit and think about it for a little bit.
You know, I'm kind of getting a little lime, Lime.
Huh?
Yeah, there's a little citrus thing playing in there too. Maybe that's the hops. You get any citrus?
Oh yeah, I could be talked into that. Yeah, definitely. Oh man,
Really good.
That's really good. Faux sure. All right, there you
All
go.
right,
Thanks
enough of
to thanks to our buddies up at the Sugar Creek Malt Company in Indiana. Check them out. They've got, who knows what they've got now. They're a small malting company, small family-run malting company, and they're doing lots of fun and interesting stuff, and really, it's inspirational to see this kind of thing going on.
Well, the perfect place to go. I mean, if you're a home brewer, for me, the fun of home brewing is being able to do things that are kind of one-offs. I mean, I'm not trying to make 300,000 barrels of something. That's not my goal. My goal is to make 5 gallons or 2.5 or whatever, and to play with flavor, and have fun with that. So if you find a malt house that has different things, then great. All right.
And
Happy brewing.
this is a unicorn.
That's
You may
right.
never see it again.
That's right.
All right. Second show of the day. Number 3 coming up next. Cheers, everybody. Happy brewing.
Cheers.
Come and visit us online. At basicbrewing.com, you can find archive lists of our audio and video podcasts on home brewing. You can also find our DVDs and our brewer's logbook, where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer. If you're in Fayetteville, Arkansas, stop by Steve's Brew Shop or find him online at stevesbrewshop.com. Just me by myself with Steve not at his chair, drinking beer.